We're already dropping in, boys. This first map, it's going to be a bit sweaty, Legion. I already know it's going to get crazy. Of course, this new maps is kind of shaking up the rotations a bit. Also, shaking up the distributions of players overall. So we're going to see a lot of rotates. One of the things that kind of surprised me is landing just on the outside of Salty. You have a lot of players now who are pushing in from that desert area side. They come in from whether it be Paradise Palms, Racetrack, and they kind of push you at a different angle than you're used to. So kind of shaking up a little bit. But Kenneth and Parallax will be facing off against Avxry and Hysteria, and already we have some drops underway. Salty Springs for Kenneth and Parallax, and Avxry and Hysteria still going for tried and true risky reels.
Risky Reel is such an interesting spot, especially when you're in that little barn side of the map. You maybe have 2 chests in there. Of course, if you land on these RVs, you're going to find one over here as well. But this is one of those areas that we saw last season specifically was such a hot drop due to those challenges. And something that I find really interesting about Season 5 is since Snobby Shores does have a lot of those challenges, I'm seeing people land in areas that you normally won't see a lot of teams. And so it'll be interesting to see if a team goes down in Game 1, where they'll be hot dropping, right, for 2. Because Tilted Towers is basically a ghost town as of the last day. So I'm excited to see where more people are going to be pushing at.
And that kind of sets up like a different C4 rotations that you talked about. You know, when it comes into Snobby Shores, that's kind of a more populated place with, you know, Viking or ship, whatever we really want to call it. One thing that I like, too, about the overall things that were added, of course, Paradise Parks, Lazy Links, they're all around different portions of the map. Of course, Lazy Links toward the northern side, toward the far eastern side is where we have Paradise Parks. Like, that totally kind of changed the whole dynamic of what was the Fortnite map previously, right? It was kind of like Tilted Towers. Then you have guys going Salty and retail. And besides that, though, it's kind of a majority lingers inside of the middle of the map. What I love about this new update is that it kind of spaces things out, which it makes the kind of the entirety of the map viable to rotate toward.
Yeah, definitely so. And, you know, I'm kind of interested to see how the traditional Shifty drop is going to be. I think Shifty is still a viable option as well, too, because you have players rotating in from Valhalla. They also go into Greasy. But one thing that's kind of shaken up things is going to be those portals, those rifts, which obviously I think they're a great addition to the game overall in itself, just for the fact that you can get a little boost. You can kind of get out there. Also a way to get away from your opponents, and there's nothing better than taking a golf cart, which, by the way, a new addition, too, through a portal. That's one of the fun things to do, a lot of stuff. But already we have a fight. Kenneth picking up his second kill there overall, along with Parallax. He's sitting at 2 himself. Well, it's been very slow for Avxry and Hysteria, but I'm kind of curious to see if they'll run into a lot of players from Lazy Links.
Yeah, this kind of sets up, if you go toward Risky Reels, this could kind of act as a little bit of like a Shifty in some cases, sort of the opposite side of the map, regarding like where the landing zones are. Risky, it can be a popular place, but if you go toward the outside buildings, you're not going to have too much action the majority of the time, so it could actually work out very well for them. It looks like they are going to be rotating toward Tomato Town, and then maybe making a little bit of a shift over, but on the other side, though, it looks like Kenneth on 40 HP.
Yeah, very low, but he has that heavy shotgun. Of course, that wasn't nerfed, and in fact, they actually buffed it. They gave it, 10 pellets instead of 5 pellets, and trust me, that thing is a beast, and he also has the legendary status
Let's point out that Parallax now has 6 kills by himself there, pretty much eliminating an entire team. You saw Kenneth just peek out to get that cleanup for the elimination, of course, setting them up significantly well here in Salty Springs. They're going to be looted up, but we're already seeing that legendary shotgun up top there from Kenneth. Absolute monster. And one of the things about this season, right, and I believe something you guys are going to bring up here shortly, was what are the shotguns anymore? What does it mean to you? Do you need a double pump? Absolutely not. It's a slowed down rate. You're starting to see a lot of these shotguns transitioning into these fully automatics. Of course, we're talking the submachine guns. Obviously, the silent sub's still an absolute monstrosity, especially for mid-range. And then, I mean, look at this. You even see Avxry up there with that. And I just love to see these layouts change, once again, as we talk week by week.
Yeah, definitely so. The map changed. The meta's changing overall. I saw Daquan, he kind of tweeted out he was a big fan of this Season 5, but he was like, why get rid of the double pump? He said it wasn't OP. He just overall enjoyed playing with it. It made it fun, but in fact, I think it needed to be changed because now the versatility, at least where the meta's at currently, is probably the best place that it's been so far. There's so many different versatilities in terms of your inventory that we'll see overall. And for me, it makes it fun as a viewer.
I think, too, like the double pump in the past was really what made the pump shotgun viable, essentially. Like you run one pump, it's like, well, I'd rather run a tactical. Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And one thing that I like about this update, too, that was interesting is that, you know, like I said, while the double pump is no longer viable, they made all shotguns in general more consistent. So it kind of balances things out overall, which is what Epic Games is constantly trying to hit hard on, is not allowing one thing to be super overpowered. The ability to kind of have multiple options when it comes down to different weapon classes. Obviously, with this update, different places around the map to where the whole thing is now consistent. So that's one thing that I really like about these updates, is that they're always, as Epic, always trying to make things more viable and not have one thing kind of dominate the others.
Right, you're talking about the shotguns, pumps versus tacs versus heavies. You're seeing a lot less of that pump action actually coming into play, which I know a lot of people do. They did love the double pump. Obviously, you've got that different pace of a game now, right? You're seeing kind of a back in the day, it was like, oh, you're carrying attack. It's more than like, like my brother, for example, he's a very, very casual player. I was getting a little better, but still a casual player. A lot of casuals, they like to rock that tack because it's very simple. You hold the trigger down, you go for it. Obviously, the heavies do a ton of damage, especially from a little bit longer of a distance. But, those pumps, man, last night I landed in lazy links.
Yep.
And, I had the pump. The guy had attack, and he just double tapped me while I was still trying to transition from one shot to the next. So it's very interesting to see that into play. But, man, I really do love the update.
Yeah, I do too. And you got to, I know you guys have experienced and we've experienced it since we've been playing, at least when it comes to Season 5. And so many players have been landing at these new places. There was at one point, I know me and Landon were playing along with our producer Goalie, and we went over to Lazy Links, and there was literally 20-plus people who were landing there. It's absolutely insane. But that can only mean one thing, too. These games are going to go a lot faster because a lot of those frags are going to be picked off earlier in the game. So this Friday Fortnite I was very excited for because it's going to be such an intense, really, because you got to get those kills early on. I'm really surprised to see the landings that we saw salty and risky. I was expecting maybe a little bit kind of closer to those newer areas, but you know what? To each their own. But Kenneth and Parallax kind of showing us a little bit of that desert area, which, by the way, I like. I love looking over from Shifty and looking over and seeing those dunes. It's, at least cinematic-wise, it looks awesome.
And one thing, too, that I actually didn't even realize that I know the original bracket was actually Nate Shuplin with the 100T Pro. This kind of changes up the entirety of at least my bracket. I had no idea that Kenneth and Parallax are going to be playing alongside each other. For those who aren't familiar, right, Kenneth and Parallax, 2/3 of the 100T, a.k.a. 100 Thieves, professional team. These guys absolutely... I don't even think you could call them a sleeper team because they are professional players. It's just amazing that these guys happen to be on the same lineup. I think we might have seen Parallax and Risker actually on the same team in past. However, though, cannot wait to watch these two kind of duel it out. And I know you mentioned earlier, Legion, how well, at least off the break, that Parallax was doing 6 frags after the very first start of the game. Absolutely absurd. So with that, it looks like they are going to be making their way here and actually inside of Paradise Parks, which kind of our first look here in Friday Fortnite at it. And look at that as well, boys. The all-terrain cart. I want to see someone get in it and just have some amazing action. You can heal in it, you can build in it, you can basically do anything that you want.
Yes.
And I want to see some action with that cart today.
Yeah, and for any aspiring, streamers or YouTubers, content creators at home in general, if you want to just go viral, somebody please. I was trying to hit a clip last night. You take that ATK, you go through one of those rifts of those portals, be on the back of it, have a duo, and then try to hit yourself a nice little hunting rifle or snipe off the rip. It's so much fun. It's very reminiscent of like old school shooters, right? You're just riding shotgun, you're trying to get some pop shots off. I absolutely love the ATK. I love the rifts, and mostly because I catch myself outside of that circle so often.
Yes.
One of the things that I find so interesting about it from a pro player's perspective in casting them is that this is going to give them an opportunity to completely zone teams.
Yep.
They're going to be able to try to get any of the stragglers and then still not have an issue getting back into the storm and not have to worry about taking as much damage. And what I also like is that they move frequently, so you're not constantly having to worry about, somebody else just jumping on you like a falcon from the air. So,
and it looks like a fight is in fact going to be underway. Kenneth is going to have a player just below him. Parallax pushing in as well to try and give some extra backup. We see those pellets and that new addition that they just added from the shotgun. Of course, you get to see how many pellets are you landing overall. And of course, right there we see a very close pattern, but he is in fact going to be able to pick off that opponent. It looks like they just got a team wipe as they've been tearing up at least a competition so far. As I say that, Avxry and Hysteria going to be in a fight once again. Now, one thing that we know about that Hysteria Ninja combo in the past was their ability to be able to switch off roles. Can Avxry fit that ability and kind of replace what Ninja was to Hysteria?
Yeah, it's a very good point to be asking right now. So, of course, we do bring up Hysteria right now. The silenced SMG in his hands does successfully get one of the knockdowns. However, he knows that someone is around, someone is near. Avxry trying to zone them out from the skies. And what you might see here from Hysteria is kind of playing this passive role. They're going to kind of lean back, say, we have the height advantage. There's no reason for us to try to be the aggressors. There's no reason for us to lose, excess HP, excess shields when we can kind of challenge this one from afar and just tag this guy up.
it's so hilarious that last week we were talking about the silent subs being followed by those double pumps. It's kind of that trio,
right,
or, the SMGs in general. And, of course, we're seeing it again here with Hysteria, not even bothering to keep the AR out. He's just switching between those submachine guns, trying to get some pop shots, destroy that build. That's what they're so good for. But it is interesting to see, man, just to see these tax shotguns actually in use this week. Is something that's a lot of fun to me. And, of course, that Tommy gun's still an absolute monster.
Yeah.
That following a shotgun blast, by the way, if you're going to go pump, I love having the Tommy gun or an LMG after to get those easy cleanups, especially early on in the match. But what we're seeing here as well, Kenneth, though, Gold Scar, Gold Legendary, Blue Tommy Gun, my dear Lord, with a thermal at the end of it. That is the dream loot right there. I want that inventory for breakfast.
And not to mention, he has 6 kills. Parallax sitting at 11. That's 17 overall. And this is just the first game of our tournament. And, of course, going against Avxry Hysteria, which was one of our favorites at least. But, of course, Kenneth and Parallax kind of switching it up last minute. Like you said, that was going to change things. And it looks like it is, in fact, making some ripples throughout our bracket. But as I say that, Avxry is going to get dropped and thirsted. Now, Hysteria is going to be all alone to try and cover that deficit Kenneth and Parallax has put on them. Plus, he's going to be just outside of Dusty, which that was changed up just a little bit ago too, but still you have that landing triangle that kind of was there that Landon's been talking about. But we do see Kenneth and Parallax going to be at retail, so Hysteria essentially is just going to be all alone by himself.
Yeah, this is going to be rough for him, too. And we talk about Kenneth and Parallax, both incredibly solid players, regarded to some of the best in the entire world. But, of course, Kenneth and Parallax, both incredible builders, very solid players, like I mentioned. And what did you see there, Taylor? Anything interesting?
No, I didn't see anything interesting. I was just looking at Avxry's screen. He was 3P in Hysteria, so I was kind of like, oh, what happened? But, of course, he did, in fact, drop. That was my fault.
Oh, no worries.
Unfortunately, obliterated. And what I love about here with Kenneth is that he's got a hand cam on that mouse. I mean, this has got to be some of the most... Did Kenneth come from the Call of Duty community at some point? Or no?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so? I love seeing the hand cams because it's like people don't believe that you're that good at games.
Yeah.
That you have to show it off. So as you can see here, obviously every movement flowing deliciously. Kenneth, 8 kills, 13 from Parallax. Honestly, you're looking at Avxry Hysteria's total kill count. You're thinking to yourself, that's actually pretty good going into game 2. But then you look over here.
Yeah.
You got to combine 21 kills from these guys versus what I believe is around 13, 14 or something along those lines for Avxry Hysteria. That's still a pretty big league. Obviously, if you're Hysteria and Avxry in this game 2, you're probably hoping Kenneth and Parallax just go down early.
Yep.
That way, you're just trying to play for kills slowly. But hopefully we'll see one of these hot drops we've been talking about where it's in one of the new populated areas.
So let's talk a little bit about why is Kenneth and Parallax leading the way here. Well, their landing was just on the outside of Salty, something we're very familiar in seeing, whereas Avxry and Hysteria decided to go over towards Risky, which obviously was going to be a lot slower. These teams still have to, obviously this update is very new. They're going to have to fill out these rotations because it's not what they are typically used to playing. Avxry and Hysteria has been playing in quite a few of our tournaments, so has Kenneth and Parallax. So with that being said, Kenneth and Parallax maybe did their homework just a little bit more as they knew people were going to be coming off that rotation from Paradise Palm. So a lot of readjusting and relearning. It's showing, though, going to Salty Springs still a viable option, leading 11 kills overall with still a total of 7 engagements remaining.
Yeah, and just echoing what you're saying, Taylor, I totally agree with the factor of, regarding Kenneth and Parallax versus Avxry and Hysteria. At least the earlier drop zones, 100% definitely in favor of Kenneth and Parallax because we talked about the ground that they have covered, Salty Springs, Retail Row. They've obviously gone toward Paradise Parks, which you could argue probably more crowded. It's kind of like a Tilted Towers, essentially. They have hit 3 major cities since the update. And Avxry and Hysteria, they could have got a few rotations off of Lazy Links, but regardless of that, like I said, they've hit Risky, they've hit Tomato, and obviously they're now where they are, but they haven't really hit any really high-profile places. Granted, they have a very decent amount of eliminations in total, but there's no reason to me why they should be leading in this game based off the path that they've taken. They haven't really gone into anywhere that's overly populated.
I think it's one of the beauties of Fortnite, right, is that you can get really lucky, especially in these matches, where maybe you do take an abnormal route and then you get just the luck and advantage on your side of having teams just starting to push you. But I think Hysteria is doing a great job here, at least managing him, and he's still managing to pick up a couple kills here. Obviously, we've got about 6 other engagements remaining in the map. Kenneth and Parallax, unfortunately, will be approaching some of the remaining teams a little bit quicker than he is, but still, obviously, coming in with those bounce pads, I cannot talk about how important those are enough. End up getting a kill out of using those, which is something I love to see.
Oh, yeah, it was a great addition overall to not only give you kind of a little of an advantage pushing forward for your opponents or past your opponents or overall pushing into a build or even using it to build yourself to get that high ground. We've seen a lot of creativity overall, but great shots from Kenneth using that gold scar, showing us what it is to be a great player, at least a professional player, and another shot in itself to pick up yet another one. Good edits, getting down, and finally the eliminations are going to come through as Hysteria is going to finish off at least one of them to try and manage a little bit of that deficit overall. But one thing is for sure, Kenneth and Parallax showed up extremely well. They performed great, and I'm liking what I'm seeing from them. Now, talking about the fantasy bracket, if I would have seen Kenneth and Parallax, I may have put them ahead of Avxry and Hysteria, but I think my bracket's already been defeated.
Might be busted already, huh?
Well, lucky for me, I did not prepare a bracket.
There you go.
Go ahead and throw them in now. As an illegal gambler / better would. And throw it in there. Kenneth Parallax looking pretty strong here, getting ready to go into game 2. Kenneth, though, man, that build up top was just phenomenal to see that twitch reflex, and obviously drops down and manages to finish that guy with the heavy. Smooth like butter, man. When you watch a lot of these professionals play, you start to really learn, like, what is it? Where is the skill gap and ceiling that I need to try to reach and potentially, skyrocket past? Not me personally. That's not going to happen, Landon. But to any of those aspiring pros out there, I mean, what is it? You got to watch, study gameplay. And when we talk about guys like Hysteria, man, over a decade experience competing, watching film, playing in tournaments. I mean, this guy probably saw Kenneth and Parallax originally, then with the original two, right, that they were going to be going into the bracket. Maybe he didn't have enough time to potentially study what their normal play style is. That's probably why they landed risky. They might have been expecting a different drop there initially. But we're going to see, I definitely think, a change of pace here from Hysteria and Avxry as we go into game 2.
Yeah, and you could argue, like, what location do they go to? Like, right now, usually, when it came down to, like, last week, there was, like, a few ideas where you'd go to, some ideas for passive play. And this week, you could argue it's totally changed up. Like, you might not be seeing players go towards Salty Springs. Maybe not retail. Maybe not even Tilted Towers, as we were mentioning earlier. A lot of players going into those new zones. Like I said, the map is fresh. It has only been out for less than, like, nearly 24 hours. There's a lot of kids who haven't even played Season 5 yet. So, like, a lot of massive, changes when it comes down to overall playstyle changes and whatnot, but it's going to be interesting to say the least what the call is going to be for Avxry and Hysteria. They played very well, but not well enough to take down the 100T pros.
Yeah, definitely didn't. And, of course, we're going to see them going in with a deficit at the end as Kenneth is, in fact, going to be dropped. Parallax following closely behind to try and pick off this last player that is just hiding behind a rock. And there it is. And there's the new Victory Royale, the slow motion. That was such a great addition. I was so confused when I first won, though, because I was like, what is going on? But it's so cool, especially if you get like a cinematic shot.
It's only happened once since then, right?
It's happened a couple of times, believe it or not, trying to low-key roast me. That's all right. That's
just
okay.
You
know what?
Just messing with you.
I've got some wins.
That's good, man.
No, your delivery for low-key roast me was about as perfect as it gets, Taylor. I almost just started crying.
Hey, don't want that, man. But if you want to cry, you got to show
like
me cry right there.
In a I'm crying because I'm laughing type of way. Yeah, no. This is pretty much, this broadcast is a lot about commentating professionals and then low-key roasting each other here on the commentator's desk, right?
True. It's
analysts.
It's kind of always been that way.
So.
Analyst?
Yeah.
I think we can call ourselves
I think
analysts.
we can call.
It's in my Twitter bio.
Name another trio that's casted as much Fortnite as us. You can't find them. Just saying.
Actually, that's a fact.
This is a trio over here, and we've been having a blast now.
We have.
For 10 weeks. I've been here for, I believe, 5 weeks with you guys casting some Fortnite. Of course, we see a 14 elimination advantage going in there for 100 Thieves versus Avxry and Hysteria. And this is one of the things that we've been talking about week by week, guys, is what happens when you actually start to get actual teammates, members of these organizations playing with each other, coming into these tournaments and going in. And obviously, 14 kill advantage, pretty insane here going into game 1 against 2 of the best players usually in our Fortnite events. So.
It's a lot, and that begs the question now, where's our landing spot going to be? Of course, Tilted was always like, go Tilted. Not an option at this point. You got to go to one of those newer places, Landon.
I would say regarding a place this week, which I've been kind of keeping my eyes on for sure, is going to be Retail Row. One of the weekly challenges, I believe, is here. I think for kills, could be for chess. Retail Row, or eliminations, sorry, yeah.
So sweaties are going there all day.
Exactly. So you have the option to go to Retail Row. You could also kind of sneak back and obviously go toward Paradise Parks. Like I said, there's like a central location to where you also have the ability as well to kind of grab those rifts, which can totally kind of change things up. You enter inside of Paradise. Okay, there's too many guys here. We're starting to take some shots. On the outskirts, a lot of the time is where those rifts are. So I think we're going to see a lot of teams kind of making a lot more location drops than usual regarding like a lot of the space that they can really cover. So I think Retail Row would be a decent pick coming into this game. Of course, it's all personal preference. These guys are usually slower paced players. Maybe not a location for them. Could maybe see Salty Springs, rotate east to try to hit those high locations. But we could also see a random drop in Valhalla, right? You're down 14 kills.
I'm ready
love
to
that.
see
Let's see it.
Drops. It's funny is I've landed there 2 or 3 times with 0 other teams going. And
really?
They all went snobby. And one of my favorite things to do right now, and this could just be for anybody at home that's watching this, is land there at Viking Village, as I'm going to coin it, and then look down on Snobby. If you get an AR or a sniper rifle, those are literally the easiest picks of your entire life. And, of course, we're seeing Avxry and Hysteria headed to Paradise Palms to start off this game, too. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
I think 96% of the lobby also dropped within there, instantly.
20 kills. I want to see 20 kills out of this duo. I see a pump and a common pistol. So we know that pretty much if you give them a corn cob and like pretty much anything, they'll be good enough.
Oh, a purple scar found as well. Okay.
Streamer loot.
There you
Hashtag
go.
streamer loot.
So one of the things about Paradise, at least off the rip, is there's so many teams that go there. Yesterday, me, Landon, and Goalie were playing, and I was having one of the best games of my life here. And whenever we push in there, the problem is...
I want to point out, he said that. He hit 3 kills.
I had 4. What are you talking about?
4
4
kills.
for 6.
Sorry.
I was having a best game of my life. And, of course, though, the problem with this area, at least at the beginning, is you got to learn how to navigate it because there's so many different angles where players are going to be coming from. We were getting shot from the hilltop. Didn't even know it was happening. And then, of course,
Didn't even
shot
know
from
it
the roof
existed.
as well. We didn't. And that's the thing.
Another scar?
Going
Yep.
here is a bit risky
tack.
overall, but it seems like it's working out so far. They came in. They've already got a couple of eliminations in their name, plus some solid loot, looking pretty strong. If they get out of here, which I'm curious to know, the rotation out of here, is it going to be fruitful in itself? That's the question because we don't know yet.
It's basically where Moisty Mire was. And for anyone who went Moisty Mire, you went there for a reason. There wasn't a whole lot of locations around there for you to kind of have some support. But one thing that's nice, though, about going toward Paradise Parks, or not for Paradise Parks, is the fact that you have those rifts. It's a guaranteed bounce pad where you can make it toward Tomato Town, you can make it toward Retail Row. A lot of opportunities for some change ups when it comes into strategies.
Yeah, then you do have that rotation up there towards retail that can kind of help. The only issue is when you have a team like Kenneth and Parallax kind of in this positioning, they're going to get those cleanups. And this was actually, I believe, a strategic move here on Kenneth and Parallax's part because what they're doing is they know they're going to drop Paradise. If they're going to be rotating up north, then they're going to have to force to get these cleanups. Kenneth and Parallax are already there to make sure that their rotation is going to be later. So if they have to move up, then all of a sudden they're going to be going more towards the center of this map, and then there's not going to be as many eliminations for them to be able to go after.
That is in fact true. As Kenneth and Parallax went to retail, of course, that area where you said the Sweaties were going to be at, but they've only found 4 eliminations in the names. But then again, look at Avxry Hysteria. They're only sitting at 4 themselves. It's the waterfall coming out. But as we see yet another one coming. So obviously retail was a little bit more fruitful here as Parallax is landing shots, not only with the hunting rifle, but also his AR there. Man, I got to tell you, Kenneth and Parallax are impressing me quite a bit. It seems like every fight they get into, they just know how to engage it and figure out at least the angles overall. As it's showing, they came in with the lead. They now have a lead, of course, in this second game. They look almost unstoppable at this point.
And then, like going off of Legion's point as well, perfect landing spot, especially when you look at the overall outcome of what took place. They're up in kills regarding right now, up in eliminations after landing here. Plus, like I said, they also had a great counter strategy. This is exactly where we probably would have seen Hysteria and Avxry have gone after this location. So they're probably at a little bit of a standstill once they find one of those rifts. If they can even survive here in Paradise, which is rough enough, where do we go? Like, what's the location drop? Of course, regarding the zone is going to be heavily based off of it, but already a very massive, kind of point of the map already taken off the board here.
Yeah, and although week by week we constantly talk about, this is kind of a detriment. Obviously, you do have them up north taking that retail position, but with this new update, Season 5, if they find one of those rifts, that gives them a chance to basically just float and kind of survey the map to see where they can maybe spot a squad and move into, which is one of the reasons why I love that so much. You can also drive the ATKs through them. I'm just letting you know that.
Can.
If you didn't know, you can drive the ATKs, and you can still actively shoot, and they survive the fall. I just want to throw that out there. Occasionally, my brother and I did not die last night completely, just destroyed the cart, much like a lot of spring breaks in the past on golf courses.
I love the aspect, though, with the ATK that if you drift, you can actually get a little boost, too. So
yes.
It's kind of – and I was watching Myth drive earlier, and I forget who he was playing with, but they were having a lot of fun. For some reason, they were on the bridge, and there was – how the bridge is broken. Instead of building just like a floor and a floor, for some reason the person he was playing with built a floor and then a ramp, and then they go up, they hit the top of the bridge and fall straight down, but luckily they didn't take any damage. But the clips and the things we're going to be seeing with it obviously is going to be great. But seeing a 32-19 overall score. Of course, the kills are starting to get away. Only 25, Landon.
Can we also point out something really quick that we have actually not touched on yet? The racetrack. We have been talking about for weeks about how a racetrack in Fortnite would be one of the best things ever. And they did, right? Unless that was probably already.
That was probably already. Definitely us.
But still, man, like it's unreal. I want to see someone land. I want to see some races. Maybe that's how we can do tiebreakers for this week. Instead of going to overtime, you play against kills. It is a straight-on race. I would love to see that happen. Production or anyone in charge of rules, can we actually see if that could be a possibility, please? That'd be great.
And look at that. Parallax is going to go down now. Kenneth, all alone. as it seems like is a lot's going to be on the line here. Obviously, they have like a nice sizable lead, but still enough engagements remain to where Avxry Hysteria could make this comeback possible. Kenneth doing everything in his power to try and build up with those defensive builds to get away from this team. Now he's got to go into this 1-by-1. Traps are laid out. He is doing everything in his power to get away.
Kenneth is easily one of the more impressive builders I've seen in our tournament in general. That was basically a 5 to 6 edit succession to be able to get out of there. Manages to put that roof on as well, so that had that extra damage for him to just get 2 seconds worth of time. But this is where you see Hysteria and Avxry. This is exactly what they need to be doing. They need to be pushing in, trying to collapse on him, making sure they can get all those kills. And, of course, you saw basically a full squad swipes from them, actually. As Kenneth is just going to be thinking, like, man, Parallax, where'd you pass by yourself at? I'm a little scared right now, you know?
And that's one of our first opportunities today where we actually see the rifts come into use, because they actually rocked that rift in order to steal those kills, obviously, from Kenneth. So really like that play coming forward from Avxry and Hysteria. Like we talked about, like in any other mode, if this was Season 4, Season 3, Season 2, those kills are in no way going toward them unless they hit like an insane hunting rifle or sniper shot from 200-plus meters away. But they rocked the rift. They see that, obviously, Parallax goes down. Perfect situation to come in and grab those kills, especially being down the way that they are, Avxry and Hysteria right now. They're going to have to try to trail these kills, and honestly, they might even have to split up here soon, which has been a very normal strategy for Hysteria and Ninja in prior tournaments. They have no problem whatsoever splitting apart, seeking out different kills, and they're actually also coming on here soon to what I like to call Split Mountain, just toward the western side of Dusty Divot. Normally, when teams are thinking about splitting, they're usually going to kind of do it around this mountain, make choices as to where to go past this into Loot Lake, Tilted Tower, Shifty, etc., and we'll see what they do here, actually.
This is still a relatively large circle for only 18 other eliminations being possible for them here. I believe they're down a total of 11 eliminations now, which means they're going to have to pretty much find every engagement here in the game as they're going to be pushing more towards that kind of tilted area. Obviously, you know, Pleasant and that whole left side of the map. I want to see one of these matches today, just one game, and one of these matches end at Viking. I want to see end at Snobby.
Yeah.
I want to see Lazy Links in a play. I want to see them battle it out in like a nice little city desert setting down there in Paradise. We got a lot of games to go through today, so there's a lot of opportunities. Of course, you were mentioning in early reflections, with there being so many of these hot drops, you are seeing less players.
Yeah.
By this point in the matchup, I mean, there's still such a large circle, not as many players, but this is one of those moments where will teams like FaZe come through and be even better in the clutch then? Because for some reason, they got magnets on in reflection. They find people instantaneously.
Well, that too, but you also have to be thinking, let's talk a little bit about Nick Merckx and High Distortion, because obviously they love to go tilted, and I was watching Nick Merckx last night, and he was like, I can't go tilted. There's just no one going to be at tilted. And he's like, and he literally said, he's like, I don't know where to go. Because he doesn't. He's got to like kind of fix things. We're seeing a shopping cart.
So can I point out something really
Avxry's trying to get away.
So Avxry essentially rocked a shopping cart, happened to steal it right out from underneath Kenneth. When they realized that there was a cart, an all-terrain cart nearby, also uses the shopping cart to get into the ATK to just narrowly steal it from Kenneth. So Kenneth, unfortunately, is just a little bit too far behind as the advantage as far as speed is considered is going toward Avxry Hysteria.
Who would have thought in 2018 esports we would be talking about carts and shopping carts and golf carts in general, and it being actually used? I mean, that was like probably one of the smartest plays you can imagine from Avxry, because he was like, oh, listen, I'm going to get in this cart. It's much quicker.
Right.
Leaves the shopping cart and then just hops in, and now he's just doing what he does.
So one thing I want to ask, and I don't know if we ever figured this out because I didn't figure it out, do you take damage if you get hit by a shopping cart?
I believe so.
Not a shopping cart, a golf cart. Because
I believe so.
No, I don't
I went
so.
full speed and tried to run someone over GTA style, and nothing happened to him.
Really?
He just
Okay.
smiled at me and just blasted me in the face.
Because I could have swore I played yesterday, and I was in, I think it was Lazy Lanes, and someone just happened to like run over me when I was in the garage, and I could have swore I took damage, but that might have just been me not being aware as usual. So
Also,
it's probably
Epic.
what would actually happen.
Definitely think about Lazy Lanes. If there was a bowling alley section, that would just be sick to have on the map in general.
Well,
What
they
do you
added
guys-
the basketballs and the golf balls.
Yes.
Imagine them adding a bowling ball.
Okay, the
be cool.
basketballs, I literally,
Yep.
I screamed last night while I was playing because somebody was throwing, I was in retail row, and all of a sudden I'm looking over, I'm like, James, like somebody's throwing basketballs at us. I was like, well, is that a thing? I look out, there's toys in this game now additionally that you can get. Of course, we ended up murdering them. Dude, I don't know if they've done anything actually to the silenced pistol or not for this update. I don't think they have.
I don't think they did, no.
But it's incredible.
Really?
Now I know why Tfue and Cloaksy literally have that in their back pocket almost every single game that we watch them. Insane. I was having so much fun with that last night. You're going to see
No
Kenneth,
mats for him.
No
Actually,
mats.
Oh, he just happened to pick them off the
Just
dead
picked
body.
them up off the dead
Oh
body.
man, that is so clutch.
Still going at it. 6 kills from Kenneth here. 7 now. just building up. I mean, there's seriously, this is going to be. I believe it might be. Is it mathematically impossible yet for Avxry Hysteria? I think at this point it
I
is.
think Kenneth made it so. I mean, that was impressive building overall. He just had 3 players pushing him, and the defensive building was great, plus the edits. Kenneth showing top-level gameplay there to single-handedly at least hold off Avxry Hysteria, who at one point had a chance when Parallax dropped. We were kind of thinking, man, oh, no, Kenneth has to go big here, and he did, in fact, do so, as they're looking like a strong team, and he has officially broke my bracket.
Yeah.
Single-handedly.
And one thing too that has became more recent regarding like players who are kind of popular, Kenneth really rose in popularity throughout the playground. Like when people were starting to actually see like professionals go up against each other, starting to see the 100T guys, the Liquid guys, guys from like NRG, other organizations as well. People were very interested to see 100T especially play, and Kenneth was absolutely destroying other pros, let alone other AMs as well. Fantastic play, rocking out with the bounce pad, finding himself behind 2 players, and at the same time, keeping in mind Avxry does get taken down. So let's throw another wrench in the setup here.
Do you think that those guys were wearing headphones? I mean, you make a pretty loud noise when you're floating in off that jump pad right there.
They might be cross-playing on the Nintendo Switch.
Also, how scary loud, by the way, are those rifts whenever you go through?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're super loud.
Those portals are terrifying. You go through, it's like the aliens from War of the Worlds. You're just confused. I'm like looking up into the sky to see who's going to be floating down. I mean,
that's
like a
the
demon.
thing. Yeah. Whenever it goes off, I'm constantly just straight looking in the air. Like I got to know where they're coming from. And I actually I did not. I got excited because I thought I hit a hunting rifle snipe when one came through, but that wasn't the case.
How many jump pads does Kenneth have? Does he actually have an endless amount of jump pads? I think at this point.
Looks like he took Phase's notes and he found all the jump pads on the map.
I seriously, guys, off the beginning rounds, off round 1s that I've seen throughout this entire tournament, for 5 weeks that I've casted, I don't know if I've seen anybody seem as capable of building as Kenneth. I mean, it seems like a lot of building in this game in general seems about being patient, meaning you basically just gradually get better. You're not trying to outspeed the build. You're trying to hit the build perfectly, right? It's just like how you would assimilate to shooting in general. It's the same way with building. You're starting to see this guy just build up in general. It's just like, I strive to land pads and mats as effectively as these pro players do.
And at this point, it is in fact going to be impossible for Avxry Hysteria to move on. They're going to be moving down to the loser bracket. But with that being said, look at this impressive showing from the 100T boys. 40 total kills, still getting more as the engagements are dwindling down. But, we talk about 40 kills. We don't see that too often, to be quite honest with you, at least collectively, as he is still going off and picking up these kills. I mean, you got to be thinking, Kenneth, he is an animal. He is performing exceptionally well. He has 15 kills to his name. And in the first game, I don't remember how many. I believe Parallax had actually more, right?
I know Parallax was in double digits.
He was in double digits. I know at one point when I looked over, at least he was sitting at 6 himself, but I know he probably reached double digits himself. But 15 this game, that's impressive by yourself, whether you're in a tournament setting or not, just playing solos or squads. But got to say, I'm impressed.
And this is also a little bit of a revenge game, actually, from last week. We actually noticed that Parallax was playing alongside Nadeshot versus Hysteria and Ninja, I believe in round number 1. So this is a little bit of a revenge story, essentially, for Parallax versus Hysteria, kind of getting the last laugh, of course. You could argue, another professional player on his team to kind of help solidify that. But, man, when it comes in 100 Thieves, they're on the bottom side of the bracket. This is a very scary game for future for a lot of other squads who could be facing off against them. I think we have FaZe on more of the top side. This could easily be a very, very close winner semis, very close winners finals that we have in our hands, especially if 100T is going to be there.
Reflections, I have a quick question. Did you see what Kenneth was drinking out of that container? I think it was the shaker. So what are these beverages called, actually? I'm not for sure.
Actually, speaking of which, you're holding the UMG Shaker Cup, which is available on the G Fuel site for $4.99. On top of that, too, some G Fuel right here. And if you guys want some G